gave my unemployed stepbrother a high-paying job and free money. In return, he harassed me for months and tried to get me fired, not knowing that was his last chance to be nice. I didn't grow up close to my half-brother, Tyler. He was the kind of guy who always had a cloud hanging over him, constantly broke, drifting from job to job, always with an excuse ready before you even asked. Same mom, different dads. Mine dipped when I was 2 and his just never showed up. We lived in the same house for years but were strangers, really. Still, I tried to be the better man. About a year ago, I landed a promotion at my tech firm. Led project manager, decent pay, a flexible team, and I could finally afford the kind of stability I used to dream about. That's when my mom called, voice alternative, like she didn't want to ruin my mood but couldn't help herself. Tyler's not doing so well, she said. He lost his job. Again. I swear, I felt the usual mix of guilt and annoyance tighten in my chest. Every damn time. I said I'd talk to him. And I did. Met him at a diner. He looked like hell, a hair all over the place, hoodie stained, eyes bloodshot. Said he'd been couch hopping, Ubering for cash, but his car got towed. I should have said no. Should have just bought him a meal and sent him on his way. But part of me still held onto the stupid fantasy that if I gave him a real chance, he'd turn his life around. So I did. I vouched for him at my job. Told my manager we needed someone for back-end QA. Sold Tyler hard. Said he was meticulous, tech-savvy, just down on his luck. I even set him up with a referral bonus, which meant I gave him $500 just to get started. I let him crash at my place for 2 weeks until he found a cheap sublet. Bought him groceries. Paid off some of his credit card debt to get the collectors off his back. He was my brother. What else was I supposed to do? At first, things seemed okay. He showed up to work on time, kept quiet, learned the systems. He wasn't charming, but he wasn't screwing up either. My team didn't mind him. I felt this cautious optimism. Like maybe, just maybe, he was getting it together. But then the cracks started to show. Little stuff at first. He'd mock me during meetings, subtle digs, nothing anyone else noticed. Yeah, guess we'll go with Ethan's plan, with the smirk like he knew something I didn't. Started showing up late. Blamed the bus, the weather, his alarm. He'd always look at me afterward like I was supposed to defend him. Then came the weird comments to other people. My friend Jess in design said Tyler kept asking if I'd slept my way to management. She thought he was joking. I didn't. One night, I caught him rifling through my desk at work. Said he was looking for a phone charger. My charger wasn't even in that drawer. I should have said something. To him. To HR. But I didn't. I kept swallowing it. Told myself he was just insecure, needed time. That if I pushed him too hard, he'd spiral. And I didn't want to be the reason he failed, not again. I regret that now. God, I regret everything. Because it turns out while I was trying to save him, Tyler was already planning how to bury me. I started noticing the signs when people at work began treating me different. It was subtle. Like, suddenly I wasn't getting looped in on decisions I normally would be. My manager, Dan, who used to chat with me after meetings, became stiff. Professional. Cold. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was too wrapped up in my own head. Maybe I was just imagining it. Then Jess stopped eating lunch with me. I caught her in the break room one afternoon and asked what was up. She hesitated before blurting, "Did you really say you were gonna take over Dan's job?" I blinked. What? Tyler said you've been planning a power move. That you were buttering up the CTO and trying to make Dan look bad. I felt like I'd been slapped. Tyler. Of course it was him. But why? Turns out he'd been talking to people. A lot of people. Planting these little seeds. That I was a snake. That I only got where I was because I knew the right people. That I looked down on my team. That I was trying to push out the older employees so I could bring in my friends. Every time someone laughed at one of my jokes or backed one of my proposals, he twisted it into a power grab. Quietly. Behind my back. And I didn't even see it. Then the performance review season came around. I got flagged for interpersonal concerns. That was new. Dan said a few people had raised issues. Unnamed people. Vague feedback. I didn't need to ask. I knew who it was. I started going over everything. Every meeting Tyler and I had both attended. Every weird look. Every awkward silence. And then I realized something worse. He'd started requesting access to documents that only my team usually touched. Logs. Internal test reports. Even chat transcripts. And I let him. Because I vouched for him. Because he was my goddamn brother. That weekend I checked my personal Venmo account. One of our coworkers had sent me $15 for pizza the week before, just a casual team lunch. But in the comments it said, "Thanks for the consultation, brain money with Wings." Weird, right? 2 days later, HR called me in. We received an anonymous tip, they said. Someone's alleging that you've been consulting for an external client using company time and resources. I felt my stomach drop. I hadn't done anything wrong, but now I could see it. The way it looked. The breadcrumbs. The whispers. The fake narrative someone, Tyler, had built carefully and methodically, piece by piece. They didn't suspend me, but I knew the air had changed. I wasn't walking on thin ice anymore. I was already knee-deep in freezing water. That night I confronted him. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just texted, "We need to talk." He showed up to the bar like nothing was wrong. Slid into the booth, grinning. "You buying?" "I know what you've been doing," I said. His smile didn't even twitch. "You're gonna have to be more specific." I laid it all out. The rumors. The tip to HR. The fake stories about me and the CTO, the performance sabotage, the whole sick charade. He sipped his beer, leaned back, and said, "Maybe you're just not as liked as you think you are." That was the moment I knew. He didn't just betray me. He enjoyed it. "I gave you everything," I said. My voice cracked. I didn't mean it to. "I gave you a job. Money. A place to stay. I saved your ass." He shrugged. "Nobody asked you to." And just like that, the last string snapped. I walked out without another word. That was the moment I realized some people don't want saving. They want to pull you under. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on my couch in the dark, replaying our conversation over and over again. The casual cruelty in his voice. The way he said it like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. That's when I realized something I hadn't let myself believe until now. This wasn't just about him being toxic or insecure. Tyler hated me. I called in sick the next day and spent the morning digging. I pulled up email logs, Slack transcripts, everything I had access to. There were little things, innocuous on their own, but together, they painted a clear picture. Tyler had been privately messaging coworkers, trying to warn them about me, saying I was manipulative, that I took credit for others' work, that I'd used him as a pawn in some scheme to inflate my team's performance metrics, that I bragged about being untouchable because of my friendship with upper management. He even went as far as to suggest that I had a gambling problem and was mismanaging the team budget. The thing that really made my blood run cold? He had screenshots, fabricated ones. He'd made mock conversations using old Slack message templates and font generators. I could tell they weren't real because of typos I never would have made, timestamps that didn't match my time zone, and one where I supposedly called someone deadweight, but the person had left the company 6 months before the alleged message date. I realized Tyler had been quietly setting up this fake dossier on me since his 2nd month on the job. I stared at my screen for hours, debating whether to go to HR again, whether to turn the tables, expose him. But I knew the game he was playing: slow erosion, planting doubt, getting just enough people to second-guess me. If I went in now, they'd think I was retaliating. They might even believe some of it. And honestly, I was exhausted. I was so damn tired of trying to prove I was the good guy. So I waited, let the rope play out. 2 weeks later, HR reached out again, said they were escalating the investigation. Someone had submitted new evidence. I asked if I could see it. They refused. But I already knew what it was. Tyler's big move. His masterstroke. So I played mine. I had been collecting my own receipts. Every favor I gave him. Every Venmo transaction. Every text where he begged for help and I gave it, no strings attached. I put together a massive email, complete with screen recordings and metadata analysis of his forged Slack screenshots. I highlighted every inconsistency, every detail that proved he was lying. I even included timestamps from our company security system showing I wasn't in the building when certain messages were supposedly sent. And I CC'd legal. 3 days later, they pulled Tyler in. I don't know what he said in that meeting, but I do know what happened after. He was placed on administrative leave, pending a formal investigation. The day he got the news, he sent me a single message. "You really think they're going to believe you over me?" I didn't reply, but I didn't have to, because the next week HR called again, this time with a completely different tone. "Thank you for your cooperation. We've reviewed your evidence." It was enlightening. That was their word. Enlightening. A week later, Tyler was fired. No notice. No severance. Just a flat, Emotionless email from corporate security saying his credentials had been deactivated. I thought that would be the end. But it wasn't. He started showing up near my apartment, just standing across the street. Sometimes he'd text me from a new number, "Nice car. Shame if something happened to it." I reported it. Nothing happened. Once I saw him outside my gym just watching. Another time, he followed me to the grocery store and, accidentally, bumped my cart so hard it tipped over. It was like he'd gone feral. And still, some part of me, some sad, pathetic part, kept wondering why. Why would he destroy the one person who had his back? It was only after everything exploded that I got my answer. And it hit harder than anything he'd ever said. Tyler didn't just hate me. He hated that I had the life he thought he deserved. I started locking my doors twice, checking behind me when I left work, watching my rearview mirror longer than any red light deserved. This wasn't just some awkward family feud anymore. This was a man unraveling. A man I'd handed a lifeline, and who now wanted to wrap it around my neck. I didn't tell anyone at work what was happening. HR had already been through enough. My team had returned to normal, trusting me again after the truth came out. I didn't want them to know how close I was to snapping. I didn't want to admit that I was scared. Then came the night he came to my building. It was a Thursday. Rainy, quiet. I just finished a double shift, pulled into my parking garage, and there he was, leaning against the wall near the elevator, arms crossed like he'd been waiting for hours. I froze. "What the hell are you doing here?" I asked, gripping my keys between my knuckles like I was back in high school walking home through bad neighborhoods. "You win, right?" he said. "Got me fired. Got me blacklisted. Probably told Mom I was smoking crack or some shit. I didn't need to lie about you," I said, jaw tight. "You ruined your own shot." He chuckled. "I didn't ruin anything. You never wanted me to make it. You wanted to own me." "What? That's what this was," he snapped. "Your little charity case. Look how generous big brother Ethan is. Got his loser sibling a job. Handed me crumbs like I was supposed to thank you forever. No one forced you to take anything," I said. "You could have gotten a job on your own. But you didn't. And when someone did give you a shot, you pissed on it." He stepped closer. Too close. "You think you're better than me," he whispered. "You always have." "No," I said. "I just tried harder. That's the difference." That set him off. He shoved me, not hard, just enough to make a point. My back hit the wall, and suddenly all those years of guilt, denial, false hope, they snapped inside me. "I should have let you drown, Tyler," I hissed. "You were on your last leg and I gave you a life raft. And you tried to tip it over." His eyes flared. "You're not a hero. You're just another fake. Get out," I said, stepping past him. "Before I make this a police matter." He laughed. "You think cops give a damn about a family squabble?" "No," I said over my shoulder. "But restraining orders don't care about DNA." He didn't follow me up the elevator. I don't know how long he stayed. I didn't care. I filed the report the next day just in case. It never escalated. Maybe the paper trail scared him. Maybe he finally got bored. But that was the last time I saw him face to face. The fallout was messy. Mom called, of course. Said Tyler told her I had him fired out of jealousy. That I orchestrated everything to look like the victim. I tried to explain, but she cut me off, voice trembling. "You knew he was fragile, Ethan. You should have been more careful." I hung up. She didn't call again. And that's when the weight hit me. Not just the betrayal, but the truth. This was always going to happen. I just didn't want to believe it. I was so desperate to save him, to redeem our broken childhood by pulling him up alongside me, that I let a wolf into the fold, and he sank his teeth in. I spent the next few weeks trying to rebuild the pieces of my life he'd cracked, re-earning trust, recentering myself, and mostly just grieving, because as much as I hate him now, I didn't always. There's this memory I keep going back to. We were kids, maybe 7 or 8, sitting on the back porch, sharing a melted popsicle, watching the neighbor's sprinkler hit the fence like a slow, ticking metronome. No yelling, no jealousy, just silence and sun. I hold on to that sometimes. I don't know why. Maybe because it's the only version of him I can still love. For a while, I existed in this weird half-life. Like I was still waiting for the other shoe to drop even though the floor was already littered with them. Work stabilized. My team was back to joking around, trusting me, letting me lead without that weird tension clouding every meeting. I started sleeping again, kind of, not peacefully, but at least I wasn't waking up thinking someone was outside my door. But inside I was wrecked. It wasn't just what Tyler did. It was what it said about me, about my blind spots, about how far I'd gone to believe in someone who never showed he deserved it. I kept replaying everything, all those years I tried to connect with him, all the crap I let slide. I remembered Christmas 2 years ago, when he was unemployed again and I handed him an envelope with $500. "Don't tell Mom," I said, like I was doing something noble. You know what he said? "Took you long enough. That should have been the red flag." But I made excuses. Said he was just bitter, tired, not himself. Said he'd been dealt a hard hand. And maybe that was true. But you know what I learned? Sympathy without boundaries isn't kindness. It's self-destruction. I went low contact with my mom after that. She didn't ask questions. Just started sending guilt-laced texts every few days. "I hope you and Tyler find a way back to each other someday. He's still your brother. Family is forever." I never responded. Then came the message. It was from Tyler, a month after he got fired. No threats, no sarcasm, no fake charm. Just, "I messed up. Everything. I lost my job, my apartment, everything. I know I screwed you over. I don't expect forgiveness. But I have nowhere to go. I'm staying at a friend's couch. They're kicking me out next week. I'm not asking for much. Just help me figure things out. Please." I sat with that message for 2 days. I didn't answer. He sent a second one. "You're really gonna ignore me? After everything? You think you're better than me? You're just a coward. You never cared. You just wanted to feel like a savior." Blocked. That was the final straw. There was no remorse. Just another attempt to twist the narrative. Play the victim. Rewrite history to make me the bad guy again. I stared at the screen for a long time after that. Not because I was tempted to reply, but because I finally felt done. Not angry, not sad, just done. That night, I opened my notes app and wrote a letter I'll never send. It started like this. "Dear Tyler, you had one last chance. I gave you everything I had. A job, money, a home, my trust. You didn't just burn the bridge. You tried to drown me under it. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't karma. This was mercy running out. I hope someday you figure out who you are without someone else to blame. But I won't be around to see it." I deleted it after writing. Didn't need to keep it. Just needed to say it. That was the moment I let go of whatever hope I'd been holding on to. The hope that he'd change, that we'd reconcile, that there was still a future where we were brothers in more than name. There wasn't. He made sure of that.